Before we begin today's show, today we want to give a big shout out to
Buzz TV. Buzz TV brings you their own spin on Android devices like the Nvidia Shield and the Amazon Fire Sticks, taking software to the next level with their own app helping you stream anything, anywhere. Buzz TV listens to you, the customers, and consistently brings you the latest and greatest when it comes to hardware, software, customer service, and experience right out of the box.
And to find their products, guys, make sure you guys do go to buzztvglobal.com.
Don't forget to click the link in the description below to get yourself the latest Android device right from Buzz TV. With all that being said, let's start the show.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Streams. Today we got a special guest, guys. We have Barry Myers from Techfluence. Before we really begin, I'm going to give you a second there, Barry, to really introduce yourself. I always got to check in with Next Level. Next Level, how you doing?
We got our first big snowfall yesterday. Everything is covered in white over here. If you guys don't know, I'm from Canada, so we're just across the border over here. So I hope everyone has their snow tires on. They're prepared for the winter, and we are getting or have gotten most of our Christmas shopping done. So besides that, I'm doing great.
Nice. Yeah, here in California, if I want to look at snow, I just look up at the mountain. No snow.
Well, I'm in New York, so we don't really leave our apartment anymore. So, but we're lucky. We're not like in Midtown where it's concrete everywhere. We have a little green out back. We're pretty close to Central Park, so it's better than some.
Nice. I've been a couple times. I've been out there a couple times in New York, and Central Park. Central Park is fun during the daytime. I don't know if I'll go over there during the night though.
It's not, it's funny because I didn't grow up here. I'm a Boston guy, but my wife is a native, and this city is, stuff is changing a little bit. Pandemic, lockdown, whatever. But up until that whole thing hit, it is so much safer than it used to be. I mean, there were places she wouldn't go, in the city, let alone Central Park at night when she was younger, and it is so much safer now. I mean, the trains are not graffiti everywhere, which makes them a little less entertaining, but
yeah,
they've done.
Yeah. I've watched too much. I've watched too much Home Alone 2. So all about that.
Yeah.
So if you could give our listeners just who you are, what do you do, where you're from, stuff like that.
Yeah, man, sure. So I am a tech, essentially marketing guy at a very basic level. I was actually, I am a reformed telecommunications lawyer. I started out, I went to BU Law and did technology/telecommunications law for about 5 years. But then I had a chance to design a conference for Comdex, which is definitely going to date me because that was kind of CES before CES. I mean, we're looking at the early 2000s here, and really kind of fell in love with the we're not there yet, but with the event experiential environment. So I'm an events guy ever since then. Comdex, we created a really great conference. That's a B2B event, business to business, if your viewers are, but at the time I was there, they had really started to see in their rearview mirror, CES was just really, at that point, Comdex was bigger, but CES was really coming up on them. So they actually hired me to design a B2C conference in early 2000s. We were talking about P2P and privacy and Napster and stuff like that. And it was a great conference, but the writing was on the wall and CES kind of consumed them within the next couple of years. But what happened was I left Comdex with a couple of the people I met there, and I created an event called Digital Life, which we sold to Ziff Davis, and Ziff Davis brought us in-house, and we launched Digital Life at the Javits Convention Center in the fall of 2004. Digital Life was the first kind of convention hall mini CES that let consumers in, essentially. We had a day for the press, but this is, again, as I alluded to before we started to record, this is one of the first events to kind of recognize, hey, these companies should be building relationships directly, communicating directly with consumers, with tech enthusiasts, especially. So we launched Digital Life in 2004, ran that for 4 years. The economy implodes. I leave there. I go join a startup called Gadget.com, GDGT.com, which was actually co-founded by Ryan Block and Peter Rojas, the same two guys who created Engadget. They had sold that to AOL a year or so before that. Gadget.com was kind of like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't a blog. It wasn't news. It was a community. You reviewed products. Beautiful, beautiful site. I created a kind of tabletop touring travel event series. We would go around the country. Gadget Live was really for geeks. There were other tabletop events for companies that wanted to engage with the press. We came at them. Now we're in 2010, 2011, 2012. We came at them saying, hey, this is a chance. Set up a table, talk to the geeks, get some feedback. So over the course of 4 years, we did probably 30 of those events. That was really great. It was a lot of fun working with those guys. AOL acquires us in 2013. So Peter and Ryan actually sold consecutive startups to AOL. I spent about a year running the Engadget branded event program, Engadget Expand. Gadget Live became Engadget Live. Then I left and I started Get Geek Media. And the idea between Get Geek Media was to take what I was doing at Gadget Live and what events like Pepcom and Showstoppers that only let the press in and kind of combine them.
Mhm.
So, post-economic meltdown, companies weren't really looking to add another trade show to they have to do CES. Most of them have to go overseas to do IFA, MWC. Those shows are super expensive for companies if your viewers don't, understand. I mean, you start building booths and stuff at the Javits, the costs just blow through the roof really quickly. So companies were looking to be more nimble, more agile. So we created these Get Geek New York and Get Geek San Francisco events where you did see the press, but you also saw the influencers, you saw the enthusiasts. We were really focused on making sure our exhibitors created a lot of video and photos, so they had this great story to tell afterward, and they were great. And then, COVID hit. So, like so many others, when COVID hit, we started to think, okay, well, what do we do now? And what we saw when we started to look virtual was that everybody was pivoting in this kind of programmatic way. Like, okay, log in for a webinar at 3 p.m. and, at 3:45, you have 5 minutes of Q&A. And, I'm talking to my buddies who are journalists and my buddies who are creators, and they're just like, this isn't doing it for me. It's not helping me do my job. So with Techfluence, the virtual event that you guys were at recently, that was the first one, the launch event. What we simply tried to do was create a virtual environment that simulated the live environment with respect to allowing our attendees to come in. The event's 3 hours long. Log in, log in whenever you want during those 3 hours. Visit whatever booths you want in whatever order you want. Much more like a live media event, and the feedback was amazing. I mean, the attendees were telling us, this is the first virtual event that really helps us do our job, is essentially what they were telling us. And that's how we got to where we are.
It's awesome. So, Next Level and I got the honor and privilege to go to Techfluence, and we've talked to other YouTubers before, and it was actually really really cool. We ran into a
Lee TV.
TV.
Yeah.
We ran into a Free Tech, and I did see Triple M, and it was pretty cool to run into certain people. For me, this was my first virtual anything, I would say. It's typically it's like you said, it's you go to the booths, you go to the conventions, you go wherever it is, you meet the people, you talk to people in person, you might take pictures or get some product to do reviews, whatever it is. And this earlier this year was actually my first time going to CES in person. I've always seen videos, and talked to people, but I got invited from a Canadian company called Buzz TV, and they have some really really cool Android streaming devices. So they were just like, "Hey, Rojas, you want to come to CES? We'll cover you. Just come down and come talk to us and enjoy the convention." So I was like, "Sure." So I wasn't sure what to expect with Techfluence. Um, I kind of went in like, because Next Level and I were talking about it, like how are they going to do this? How is it going to be where, like, we're not going to a booth? Are they going to set up a booth, or are they going to be in their pajamas at home, or like? So we were kind of like really going back and forth on it. Like, I wonder how it's going to be. And when we got there, at least on my end, and I know Next Level and I talked about it afterwards, saying like how cool it was. We got to talk to all these different people. Um, I think for me personally, I think it was great how you were able to help the, these companies and these content creators, or all these different types of people just meeting together in this virtual sense, and yeah, I'm still talking to several of these people even after Techfluence. So I think it's great, how that whole thing came about.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you. And it was our honor and our privilege that you guys attended our first event. So let's be clear about that. But kind of building on what I was saying about with our live events or my live events at different companies over the years, and understanding that it's not just about the press anymore. And obviously one of the, well, not obviously, but I didn't talk about the creator program we run, the influencer program we run. We help companies manage YouTube campaigns and create content about their products. So with the past experience and the focus for the last 15 years on understanding there are other audiences besides the press, right up through the YouTube creator program we launched about a year or so ago, we've developed these really great relationships with creators. And I think, you mentioned seeing some of your colleagues, peers at the event. I just think one of the things that really differentiates what we do at Techfluence with the virtual event and builds off of what I've been doing for 15 years is this understanding that this is a separate, albeit related community. And I probably mentioned that earlier, but I love the way you said that, you saw Lee TV and Triple M, because when I launched the creator program, which is also branded Techfluence, the influencer stuff, one of the first things I realized is what an awesome community you guys have, how supportive you are of each other. I was blown away. I mean, there's, it's not like nit nat competitive stuff. I mean, you guys all really support each other, and that's intense. And one of the things we told attendees more than potential exhibitors as we were talking about the virtual event, and I didn't want to overstate it, but yeah, we've all been locked down for so long. This is an opportunity to come out and see some of your buddies on the kind of traditional media side, on the blogs. They all know each other. I mean, Jeremy Kaplan, who's the editor-in-chief of Digital Trends, was a writer at PC Mag when I was at Ziff. I mean, everybody knows each other. They all move around. And that's why, if you guys, I don't know if you had a chance to check into it, but you saw that on our show floor, we even had a press lounge, which is essentially an attendee lounge.
Yeah.
You
It
won't
was
find
crazy.
that at other.
That press lounge is where we actually found all of our fellow creators. We all ended up in the same room.
That's so cool.
We're like, hey, I know you. I know you.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah, and actually at the next event, I think we're going to actually have an exhibitor lounge too, so they can kind of say hi to each other and what have you. Because again, I didn't want to overstate it when I was essentially pitching the event, because that's basically what I spend most of my time doing. I didn't want to overstate it, but there's definitely an element of, hey, this is a chance to kind of reconnect with some folks. I love that you mentioned that part of it, because that was a real part of it. Albeit I get it, that's secondary to the objectives you have that allow you to do your thing, collect the information you need to and make the build the relationships you need to build to get cool products to have on your channel, people to interview, what have you, from the press perspective, collect the information they need to cover these products, write about these products. I mean, that's obviously the primary objective for everybody. But yeah, there's a real element of, hey, let's try to create an environment where people can, get together and hang out for the first time virtually, albeit in a long time.
I haven't been given the privilege of actually physically attending a CES myself. But just from videos that I've watched and experiencing Techfluence, personally, I think for myself, the experience of what an event like Techfluence would give me is a lot more impactful than an event like CES. And the reason I say this is because you really and truly get a one-on-one with these companies. They kind of have a queue where you come up, you get one-on-one, and unlike CES, there's no other distractions. All the other creators and
Yeah.
media outlets really waited their turn in line to really respect everybody's time. When you go to an event like CES, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of commotion, it's very busy, it's not a lot of room to move around, and it's hard to respect people's time in the same manner. So I really enjoyed what I got out of Techfluence, and I think that the vendors really enjoyed it as well. I think that, you know, as as time has progressed, these companies are not looking for the bigger media outlets anymore. I mean, Rojas and I have had conversations not just with vendors from places like Techfluence, but they're really looking these days for creators that are going to hit different audiences. They're not looking for the big creators or the big media outlets that are going to be, showcasing their flashiest product. They're looking for the people that can speak to the actual people, the average person,
Yeah.
and get what they would be most interested into their hands, right? And I think, taking you back a little bit, listening to your story and how you got started, it sounds like you've always been for the people, by the people, by the people, for the people, however you want to word it. You've
Yeah.
been really interested in the average consumer and connecting them with the companies that mean the most to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. I think, I mean, it's a little bit of a delicate dance, right? Because everything you said is absolutely true. But like I kind of alluded to briefly earlier, it's not that the tech press isn't still critical, and it's not that all of the PR and marketing professionals have decided that nano influencers are the way to go. And if you talk influencer marketing speak, that's what we're talking about, right? The difference
mhm.
between nano and micro and macro. And the advantages of nano is a, a deeper relationship with in your case, viewers, if it were a video creator, or readers, if you're a blogger or whatever, more engaged, blah, blah, blah. And, that's all absolutely true. But at the same time, there's still a lot of traditional kind of PR marketing people running around going, I need to be in CNET. And
Mhm.
they should be doing that. I mean, CNET's reach is it's immense. So it's kind of making sure that you're simultaneously speaking to both objectives that these companies have. Um, but I think it's it's we start to talk about in the context of what you just said. We start to go down the path of what is the future of the virtual event versus the live event versus the hybrid event. I've done a fair amount of those types of podcasts, whether it's with like the Advertising Institute a couple of weeks ago, have you. We're all obviously still trying to figure it out in real time. You know, what we've done with Techfluence is really try to build something on top of the On24 platform, which is our kind of underlying platform provider, that is scalable, that is flexible, that is customizable. So, that when you go into a virtual booth at Techfluence and you click on the video chat, that's essentially the screen you see when you enter a booth isn't really the booth, right? It's entering the video chat is when you actually are engaged with that. And you can do it through text chat too, I understand. But when you enter the video chat, that's when you really are engaged with that company, that exhibitor. That video chat for all of our exhibitors at our first event was really like the table, right? So if somebody else came into that booth on their computer and clicked on that video chat, they kind of joined that conversation. So it's great to hear that everybody was very respectful and taking their turns. We also we do offer companies the opportunity to have multiple video chat rooms that can either be designated for different products, or that can be kind of password protected if they want to schedule appointments. So the way I describe it to companies is, that first video chat function in our virtual booths is your table. It's open. You can be engaged with me and somebody else can pop in. You can use a second video chat, and this won't make as much sense to you because you haven't been to CES, but I'm sure you understand how it works. That second video chat is like that weird little room that they have in the back of their booth at CES, where you can go in and actually shut the door, because that's important too. So, but I mean, it speaks to, I think, our understanding of not one size fits all within the within the kind of confines of not creating something super overly complex that nobody wants to deal with. What's the maximum amount of flexibility and customization we can offer? And I think what you'll see with some of our competitors is, much more of a kind of one size fits all opportunity. I mean, here's your booth, here are your functions. We're 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 not going to let you add a second press room because you want to showcase a separate product and you don't want all your press materials in the same folder or what have you. And we've really tried to accommodate all that for our exhibitors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, uh, with CES, I walked into Samsung's setup. Yeah, the wall. They had that giant wall thing with that huge TV, and then it was their area was so big, and you're literally like shoulder to shoulder, like with people, everybody just like
Yeah.
wanting to see what they got. And it was overwhelming me for that being my first time going. I'm like, how am I supposed to like talk to people like, hey, I'm Rojas, I'm here. It's like,
Yeah.
so it was with Techfluence, I met somebody else, I forgot her name, and it was in uh uh the first media room that we were in. It was just me and her, and she was just like, hi, nice to meet you, my name is blah blah blah. She was like really really fast talker, and she's like, is this your first time doing something like this? I'm like, yeah. She's like, have you been to anything like live in person? I'm like, I see, yes, I've been to that. And she's like, rule of thumb, if you want to ask for this, like sample, 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 sample. And I'm like, where's my pencil and paper? I need to write some of this stuff down. So I'm over
Yeah.
here like just soaking things up, like everything that she was telling me, like how to market yourself, how to talk to the exhibitors,
Yeah.
certain do's and don'ts. And I was like, I kept thinking about at CES. I'm just like, man, I'm like, when I actually got to so I did talk to one, I forget the name of the company. They had a very big setup. They had these laptops that you could cast from your phone to the laptop. They also had these they had this like coffee maker that you could take a picture, and then the foam will be your picture. Like it was just a lot of like really cool
Yeah.
things. And I
That's
got
probably
lucky.
like a booth within a booth type of, because
Yeah.
there are companies that do that with the lattes,
Mhm.
and at CES what will happen is like Qualcomm will have like three smaller companies in their booth to kind of jazz up things. Qualcomm is famous for their espresso. I've been to like, I don't even know, 16 or 17 CESs. So
That sounds familiar.
um,
Qualcomm sounds, I don't know if it was one of their booths, but it could have been.
yeah, the espresso in the booth is always a good little trick that the exhibitors at CES use. But I mean, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, as far as Samsung and LG and Sony, I mean, at CES, even if you have an appointment scheduled with someone, it's 50-50 that it's going to go off once you start, approaching their media check-in center, and then they got to go find them, and maybe they can text them. And um, yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, but then you can also go like down to Eureka Park. I don't know if you spent any time down there where all the startups are, or just generally go over to the Sands where the booths are a little smaller and some of the really cool kind of emerging technologies,
Yeah.
robotics and stuff like that are exhibiting
Yeah.
because of how they categorize stuff. But yeah, I mean, CES is yeah, it's
And
pretty
even
over.
it's very overwhelming. And there was one booth that I was very excited to go see. And I was thinking like, okay, I hit up some of the streaming booths. I hit some of the lower, smaller, tiny, the ones like way far in the back corner booths. Um, and so this was the craziest thing to me. I ended up talking to somebody from DJI there. And I thought like there's no way in hell I'm gonna talk to DJI. They got, they got some of the best drones out there, some of the
Oh,
gimbals.
DJI.
DJI, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
DJI. Yeah.
and I was just like, there's no way I'm gonna talk to them. So I ended up talking to them and we exchanged information and like something came out of that. Like they actually sent me some stuff, So I was like, this is
Yeah.
really, really cool. On the flip side of that, I was really looking forward to talk to a company called RII. They have these little keyboards. They're just like little miniature keyboards. You could hook them up to your Fire Sticks, Android devices. You could use them for your computer. They're really tiny. They're like handheld. I know Next Level's looking for one. I know I got one back here somewhere. But I went and I saw the name on the top from like maybe like 3 aisles down, and I'm just like, I gotta go there. I'm like, I gotta go talk to these guys because I've been a fan of their products for such a long time.
Yeah.
And they were one of my first little mini keyboards, and I'm just like, this thing's awesome. So I get there, and there was a few people in the booth and like workers, and there was a lot of people there just talking to them, grabbing flyers and everything. So I'm there looking at some of their new stuff coming out. I'm like, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. And I'm standing there and I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm here. I want to talk to somebody, you know?
So are
And
you walking around the floor with like a team, or is it just you kind of?
just me and the wife.
Yeah.
Just
So
me.
you don't have your camera and
Oh, I brought, so I have my little, so I got my little gorilla
yeah.
and I have, I'll pull out some of my stuff. I got my camera
Yeah.
and I have the mic. And so I'm like, okay, it looks like I got some kind of equipment on me,
Yeah.
and give you the little lanyard and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I got my stuff here. I had a backpack on. I had my wife has the I have the gimbal with the phone on it. So we have equipment. We're like, okay, we're here.
Mhm.
And I actually started to record some of their stuff. And I was thinking, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna make an overall general video on the booth and show a bunch of highlights from CES. And then I wanted to do a dedicated video just on their products and then talk to them in person. And I did that with Buzz TV. And so I'm there, and it was just like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15,
Yeah.
20 minutes. And I'm just like, okay, it was the last day. And I'm just like, I have no time. So I just I took a card. I just said, hey, one of you guys have a card real quick?
Yeah.
The guy's like, here you go. So then I grabbed it and then I just kept going.
I mean, every company and every individual is different, right? I mean, I think as a general matter, all of these companies, consumer facing tech brands, are becoming more and more aware. And we've kind of talked about this as a theme running through the whole conversation, more and more aware of the importance of creators and working with them. But it's also very kind of, oh, very cool. Very cool. It's also still very individual based, so that you could run into someone from the PR group who's like, YouTuber, and I mean, people are generally also pretty busy. I mean, it's funny because on the last day, obviously the booths are a lot less busy. A lot of people only spend 1 or 2 days at CES. But then a lot of people are gone that you may want to speak to when you're there. So a couple things. I mean, number one, and we've actually done this as kind of a broad program the last couple of years, trying to help the YouTubers that we work with make those connections in advance of the show. So, hey, I've got an appointment with Seagate on Wednesday at 4, and this is who I'm going to go ask for. And but to the extent that you're doing that on your own, that's something obviously, CES, it's critical to do advance work, right? You've got to pound the phone or the email and schedule. I mean, I could show you my spreadsheet by the time I show up in Vegas on, it's color coded and I'm going here and here and here. And I'm also, I'm pitching the company. So I'm at CES for a different reason. So I try to be really respectful. I mean, if they're talking to a member of the media when I walk up, even if it's this time we've scheduled a time to meet, I'm still like hands off, do your thing. I know why you're here. Um, but on top of that, and you don't strike me as the kind of guy, which I think is a good thing, who would be, super comfortable doing this. But, I mean, you walk in and say, listen, I'm a creator. I got 150,000 subs. I mean, if you kind of force the issue in that respect,
Yeah.
you probably, yeah, you don't strike me as the guy, and that's cool. I mean, good for you for not being that kind of guy. But, you probably get someone's attention a lot quicker. Hey, Rojas reviews. I mean,
I think there's a time to be that kind of guy.
yeah,
Probably very seldom, but you have to be in certain situations where you come in and you lay everything on the table just to get the attention.
yeah,
And then once you get the attention, you no longer have to be that guy. You
yeah.
can go back to being, hey, I'm Rojas or I'm next level. And this is how I interact with people. This is how I interact with companies, how I interact with, consumers or viewers or watchers or whatever. But sometimes you do have to make that impact just to catch someone's attention, for sure.
Absolutely. And being that person does not, equate with being a jerk anyway. I mean, the funny, I always say, the one thing I learned from law school, from 3 years of law school, is that, there are a lot of words out there. If you choose carefully and your attitude and demeanor is correct, there aren't too many, subjects you can't address without pissing people off if you're careful. And so even if you can always say, hey, listen, I got to run, I'm a YouTuber and I've got, a meeting with Samsung soon, or what, I mean, being that person, as you so adroitly put it, does not necessarily mean being a jerk either. It just means, hey, my time is valuable too.
Yeah,
You know,
sorry, next. I just wanted to comment on what he said about what both the guys saying about like, hey, I have X amount of subscribers. Anytime I've ever walked into a booth or I talk to anybody, um, I just say, hey, what do you got? What's your products? What do you do? This and that. I just want to know them. I don't like if I want to say I've only had two people ask me. Every single person have had like said like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I do YouTube videos. I do this. I do that." There's only two people out of everybody that I talked to from CES and Techfluence, one from Techfluence, one from CES, that they asked, "Well, how many subscribers do you got?" And once I said that, they're like, "Really?" They're like, "Oh, dude, let me get your information." Like they start getting all like, and I'm
Right.
thinking, yeah. Okay, so your product, like I'm like, I want to know
Yeah,
your
but I mean, to be clear, it doesn't necessarily, what I'm trying to, kind of articulate doesn't even necessarily require I have X number of subs. I mean, just let them know, hey, I'm a creator. I'm a
Mhm.
YouTuber. I'm not just walking around with this Joby thing for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I'm creating content and I'm here to create content. Again, a little nicer maybe than I'm putting it, but I'm here to create content about your products and share it with my viewers, regardless of whether I have 30 subscribers or 300,000 subscribers. And, just kind of get that known. Um, and then you may or may not, I mean, it's no guarantee, because you still may say, so, you still may get kind of, well, I need to talk to this guy from Android Authority first or whatever. I mean, everybody's a little different, but just to let it know that, you're not just walking around making home movies.
Yeah.
Speaking of words and kind of when you have to put it all out on the table, where did the name of Techfluence come from, and how did you approach companies saying I'm from Techfluence when you first created it? Because this was the first ever virtual event that Techfluence has put on, right? So I guess, how did the name of Techfluence come about, and how did you, I guess, use its authority or your authority to influence both companies and creators to come together on this platform?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of to take it backwards, the authority, if you will, for lack of a better term. I mean, everything I've done over the last 15 years builds on the previous thing we've done and the relationships I've built. And you guys probably popped into the Turtle Beach event at our our show. My contact at Turtle Beach has his own little PR firm. I met him, probably over 10 years ago when he was doing the PR for Sonos. I followed him from Sonos to TiVo to his own firm. So, I mean, it's that kind of thing, right? I mean, it's kind of all about the Rolodex with that respect. As far as the actual brand, when I left AOL, the company we created was Get Geeked Media. Get Geeked meaning get excited. And the live events were Get Geeked New York and Get Geeked San Francisco. Get Geeked, all one word, all lowercase, don't capitalize, branding and how that goes. But I loved that because, and it's just something I thought, I kind of gave some thought to and thought worked. Because when you added the city, it kind of became a call to action. It wasn't just like an event. It was like Get Geek New York. And it's also the name of the event. And it's also a call to action to get excited. Techfluence ultimately really came about in the context of the creator / YouTuber / influencer campaigns we're helping companies manage, right? So it kind of probably makes more sense. I certainly don't think it doesn't make sense, double negatives, in the virtual event environment, but you can understand, tech influence. And unfortunately, a lot of people still say, hey, I want to get a booth at Tech Influence. But that's just, that's just a branding thing. But yeah, I mean, Techfluence, influencer marketing, technology, creators. So that's where Techfluence kind of came from. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it was one of my more, it was definitely a little bit of an epiphany. I'm very happy with it. When I thought of it, I was like, bingo, dude, you nailed it. When it came time to do the events and, in some respects, it was like, I'm not going to create a new name. Get Geeked, I just didn't think really fit in the virtual space as well. A little bit of a nod to the understanding that, whether it's a creator or for that matter, whether it's somebody writing for CNET, it's still influence. You're still influencing people in the best sense of the word. So, we just decided that we would stay with Techfluence. We also have a blog called Techthusiast. And that's the combination of tech and enthusiast. And what we do with Techthusiast, if you haven't checked it out, and it's a bandwidth thing, so we're struggling. We don't promote it a lot because they might not post every single day. But essentially, it's the first tech blog that curates company created content in one place. So now if you're a geek and you want to see the most recent Google blog post, the most recent OnePlus, the most recent Western Digital, the most recent Seagate, you have one stream of company content. So, because companies are putting a lot of money into their own content, of course, as well now. We're all publishers, blah, blah, blah. So now you have this a blog where you can go and see like a stream of consumer technology company created content in one place. And that for that one, we combined tech and enthusiast for Techthusiast. So in that respect, there's a little bit of a theme going on. But that's where Techfluence initially.
I've checked it out. And one of the things that was actually one of the first things I said to Rojas. I was like, okay, I see the articles, I see the videos. The videos aren't his. They look like they're coming from the actual companies. So are you writing the articles and just about the videos, or they're actually curated directly from the companies as well?
This is a content curation initiative from start to finish, which is why, number one, we don't, take the whole article. I mean, the way YouTube integrates with our little WordPress site doesn't allow us to like sample it. I mean, you can click on the video and obviously watch it right in our, kind of native environment. If you want to read that whole blog post, then you do have to go through to their site. I mean, ultimately, it's funny because you go back to the early days of the web and what people thought it was and thought it was going to become. This notion of what are you doing with my content on your site was like, now it's just about, I mean, companies are so thrilled when we share their stuff and, then we buffer it out to all the social networks. Hey, new blog post on Techthusiast from Western Digital, and they like it and share it themselves. So, yeah, it is a purely content curation initiative. I don't have the time to become a journalist or to hire a journalist. I don't want to compete with my friends at CNET and Digital Trends and PC Mag and ZDNet and Wired, and they're good at what they do. This is not about original content. This is about companies getting much more serious about creating good content that isn't like knock you over the head sales pitch for their products. I'm not going to say you don't encounter that. You'll still encounter that somewhat frequently, but I mean, if you look at the stream, it's good content, and ultimately from a topic wise, and it's pretty simple. I mean, I could do more to kind of tag it and categorize it, but from a subject matter wise, the subjects being covered, consumer tech, are like any other tech blog. You'll find a story on the new next gen consoles, a story on the streaming device, a story on storage and smart home gear, but no, we are not writing any of it. This is just
it's really interesting because obviously as an influencer, we try to build communities, right? And the communities follow us in many different ways. So there's an application called Telegram, which I have about 1,500 people in. And Telegram's kind of like your WhatsApp on steroids. You're able to actually curate content if you know what you're doing. You can put bots in to kind of welcome people as they join the groups and all that kind of good stuff. So what I've done actually last week was create a bot inside of my group that has over 1,500 people in it and feed it RSS feeds. So exactly what you're talking about here. Yeah. And I had to make conscious decisions just like you did for techenthusiast.net, right? So one of my things was I'm going to have it post just the titles, not the summaries, not the whole articles, because once you start to post the summaries, the whole articles, and the links in something like a messaging group, it tends to become spammy and people lose interest. If you just blurb out a fact, right, it is advertisements for the articles, it's advertisements for these companies, and people are getting exactly what they want. They're getting the information that they need, and they can continue and move on with the rest of their day. People's attention spans are not what they used to. We are in such a fast-paced environment. So I completely get what you did with Tech Enthusiast, and I can appreciate what you've done, because I've kind of done the same thing on a different level this last week. In a messaging kind of group, right? So that is something that I've actually done to my Twitter last week as well too, where I took similar information and I gave it to an automation tool that I was creating up. So the same kind of stuff is automatically posted to my Twitter, because I had a Twitter and I was like, I can't keep up with everything. You have to automate some stuff, right? And you still want to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, not to get too in the weeds, and I, part of my challenge is I'm not, like I referenced earlier really quickly, I'm not like super geeky, right? I mean, this stuff is kind of intimidating to me, and it's not like we have a team of engineers and developers and what have you here. So one of our challenges was actually not to find a mechanism to not automatically publish, because if I'm so first of all, Techthusiast is essentially Feedly plus a WordPress widget that allows me to comes into the back end. But what I found was all these WordPress widgets, hey, automatically publish this RSS feed, and Western Digital would have, a blog post on a new product. Cool, I want that. A blog post on the importance of data in the, 21st century. Cool, I want that. And then the third post might be a firmware update to one of their products. I don't want that. So for us, one of the challenges was, first of all, finding kind of a widget that was compatible with Feedly, that sat in the back end of the WordPress blog and let me say, okay, this goes, this doesn't go to the site. And then the ongoing challenge of doing it that way is, of course, it's hugely time intensive versus an automated thing. So that's we're still struggling that, and we grow, we get a bigger team. Maybe we because if I showed you what the Feedly looks like, I mean, we're tracking literally like 500 blogs and like 250 YouTube channels. Now, a lot of them don't publish 3 times a year. some like privacy, cybersecurity, Avast has an amazing, those types of companies tend to publish a lot. Health and fitness tech publish a lot. But other companies, I don't see for months, and then they pop up. But I didn't want it to be, I really didn't want it to be, Samsung, Sony, LG, Google, Microsoft. Samsung, Sony, LG, Google. I mean, I love, posting blog posts and or videos from Amber, this funky little cloud storage, build your own private cloud. And I mean, all kinds of little startups. And, there you're getting even better content because it's probably being written by like the CEO, who's probably some super smart entrepreneur. But tech enthusiast will never be like an auto publish because they're just, even as branded content gets better and more valuable to the consumers, there's still a mix of hard sells, firmware updates, and I don't want that stuff on the blog. So we're still kind of struggling with the cadence to make it all work. But I love, and it's simple, and it's not like, it's kind of a passion project to be honest. But nobody else is doing it, and the companies think it's really cool, and the readers, although we don't have a ton of them, think it's really cool. And to the extent this is good content, think about it. If you're a geek and you want to hear directly from Apple about what they have to say about their new product or whatever, and you want to do that with 3 companies, then you're at 3 websites. If you want to do that with 5 companies, then you're at 5 websites. And that's what we're addressing.
Yeah. So I did want to ask, uh, what's coming up for Techfluence? Would really like, because I know you're supposed to do another Techfluence this month, and I think you pushed it out to January.
Pushed it out to January 6th. It's such a weird and thankfully kind of forgiving environment out there right now because of the pandemic, and everybody's kind of all over the place. And what we found, and again, the feedback from the first event was amazing. And but then we found that the companies really pivoted towards CES right away. What's that's gonna look like. And it's hard to, it doesn't feel that way right now because we're in Black Friday week. And that's what we were kind of trying to go for with the November event. But companies bake stuff in advance, and you got to kind of try to stay ahead of their cycle a little bit, if that makes sense. It's kind of funny. And here's my little guy. Here's my guy. He just came out of what did you just come out of Spanish? That's how they, that's high school. That room is high school.
Yeah.
Oy, oy, oy. But it's kind of a catch-22 in my world, right? Because the companies will tell you, hey, we're planning for Q1 of 2021 now. And then you'll be like, all right, well, I'm going to give you, 5 months advance notice of our next event or our next project or whatever. And then you wait, and you kind of ping them and follow up. And then they still don't make a decision until 2 weeks out. So it's like this crazy catch-22. But, we saw the focus move to CES really quickly. On top of that, what we saw was, Pepcom held their first virtual event, and, it was okay, but it wasn't nearly, the platform's not nearly as robust or flexible or scalable. They're not delivering, the kind of data and analytics that we deliver to our exhibitors afterward. I'm not going to give up too much, I don't think, to say publicly here that, after one of our virtual events, we can tell the exhibitor exactly who went into their booth. For whatever reason, the events that we're kind of competitive to haven't really focused on that piece of it. They've really, been kind of trying to transition what they do in real live events to the virtual environment. And what I probably said earlier, or maybe said on that call I was on earlier today when I was pitching the event, I can't remember now, but at the front end, we wanted to create an environment where our attendees and our exhibitors could engage in a way that looked and felt like a real event, one-to-one, high touch, share information, ask questions, get answered. But on the back end, hey, it's a virtual event, and this is a super powerful platform. And if you're not taking advantage of that, then you're missing an opportunity to deliver value. So, again, I don't think it's speaking out of turn to let you guys know as attendees that, yeah, I know what booths you went to, and the companies know what booths you went to. And that's really valuable stuff to deliver. So another piece of the puzzle was, you know, rather than kind of shy away, because we're the startup and we're the small, rather than kind of shy away from what PepCom and CES are doing, let's jump in there and show everybody that our platform is better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
January 6th.
January 6th is such a good date because CES will do their virtual January 11th.
Yep.
And they go to the 14th. I already got my emails from them, and I already got my codes and all that stuff, and they're already starting to push. And I'm like, okay, we got Thanksgiving, guys. Hold on.
So I can't tell exactly, and we'll find out more as we get closer. And I know the people at CES. I mean, they're great. It appears they've taken a very kind of, well, going back to what we were saying at the outset, a very programmatic approach to their first virtual CES. A lot of focus on the conference and the speaking and the panels. It almost appears from their materials that their virtual booths are not very robust, and that's fine. I mean, you can. They talk in their materials about being able to schedule meetings for later and things like that. So I don't think, I don't think you're going to get the same experience that Techfluence gave you in terms of a booth to booth thing. You'll be able to go, I think, and pick up information and maybe, request an interview or schedule a meeting later. Similarly, I mean, PepCom does have that, real-time engagement, but no matter what level you take with them, you're still going in one video chat room, whereas again, we have the flexibility of doing different video chat rooms for different products or locking one up for scheduled meetings or a lot of more flexibility. So, for those reasons, we thought, again, among, and some other considerations, let's jump in at CES. We'll jump in the week before because, virtual or not, the week of CES is going to be a news fire hose. So we'll give some companies, a chance to kind of get a head start on that, get a jump start on that. And rather than shy away from some of these more established event brands, let's put ours out there and show everybody that we think we've built something that's better.
Yeah. Now for the upcoming Techfluence, I don't know if you're allowed to or if you want to, um, give us maybe a sneak peek of who's possibly gonna be there. Like you mentioned Sonos earlier, and
Yeah.
I love Sonos. I'm like, man, please let me get some Sonos.
So we're not there yet. I'm not quite, because there's a lot of difference, in my world between, paper in-house versus, oh yeah, we're definitely doing it. Call them up next week. Yeah, we're definitely doing it. I know the PR team at Sonos pretty well. So they're in play. Yeah, one of the main guys in their CorpCom group was a WagEd guy, Wagner Edstrom. I mean, again, it's all goes around PR firms, back to tech companies, back to PR firms. So they're in play. I mean, it depends. I mean, companies like Sonos, which are, at this point, they're not Sony and Samsung in terms of how long they've been around or how big their booth may or may not be. As a matter of fact, Sonos usually doesn't even go on the show floor. They actually just take a bunch of beautiful suites, the Venetian or something, which is another strategy for CES. But they're at least traditional now. They've been around long enough. They make consumer tech hardware. So you can expect, obviously, that they're launching at CES. I mean, that's not the case with every company, but with your, traditional consumer-facing hardware tech companies. So they'll have something to say. So hopefully we can convince them. But there'll be some cool audio folks there. There'll be, I mean, I think from a kind of subject matter, it'll be similar to what you saw. I mean, one of the things that we, for better or worse, if you're an exhibitor, and probably if you're attendee too, from a business standpoint, for better or worse, is that we're always going to be a little smaller. I mean, PepCon throws it out there. Hey, we're doing January 10th. Companies that have been doing PepCon for 2 decades are like, I don't even want to look at any other platform. Techfluence is better. I don't want to. Here's my contract, John. Here we go. That's what we're up against. I mean, we're a startup. But I think from a kind of topic perspective, it'll be varied. There'll be a little audio. There'll be some smart home is big. Some of that cyber safety, cybersecurity stuff, like I talked about earlier. So it'll be a nice mix. One of the things we do want to do in 2021, which we hopefully will be starting to announce soon, is we do want to do some vertical specific, some category specific stuff. So a smaller show with 10 med tech or 10 fitness tech brands. If that's your beat, if that's it doesn't have to just be your beat. If it's something you cover, then by all means attend. Smart home tech is another one we're looking at doing. Ed tech, STEAM. I don't know if you know about like Kano, the Kano PC. I mean, build it yourself PCs that teach kids how to code while you're putting together their PC. There's and companies like that too. They're pretty responsive to like smaller shows that are specific to their categories. So that's something we're looking at doing in 2021 too.
Now, I believe there was a company, I think in your Rolodex, that a lot of our viewers on both Rojas's channel and my channel would be very interested for us to talk to them, and that would be TiVo. So
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
said you have some connections in TiVo and your Rolodex, so I think it'd be pretty interesting if they were a part of the booth, because a lot of our viewers would be interested in either hearing more about them or hearing us being able to connect with them to either provide more in-depth detail to our viewers, our watchers, our subscribers, that kind of good stuff. So that's definitely a company that I would be interested in connecting with for sure.
So the next step is when this airs to take that little cut. Maybe you guys can clip it for me, and I'll send it over to the people I know over there. Yeah, no, I know some people at TiVo. I've worked with TiVo actually going back at the second or third Digital Life. I mean, you're talking 15 years ago. They did a stunt, a marketing stunt at our shows. It was called, and this is, TiVo is still pretty new. It's a big box. You connect it to your TV. They called it the Death to the VCR, Death of the VCR. And we literally we were in the Javits Convention Center, which is New York, and big convention hall, big lobby. In the lobby area, we invited all the press. We had like this mock funeral for the VCR. And then again, Digital Life was one of the first shows that consumers could come to. If you brought your cable bill to the TiVo booth, they actually gave you a TiVo. This is like TiVo probably V2 or V3. I mean, it was still a really new thing. And so there were people walking all over Manhattan carrying the TiVo they got at Digital Life. And it was great. And, they're still doing some really cool stuff in the streaming space and in the hardware space. So we're hopeful. We're hopeful.
Yeah. So we did talk about Buzz TV. They were at CES, and I was telling you that they have an Android streaming device. If you want them on Techfluence, let me know, because I have a very tight connection with those guys. So if you want them also, I could shoot them an email.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have them. I mean, you can share the link on our site where we have our booth packages. I mean, at the end of the day, to the extent they're familiar with our competition or they're looking at doing other events, at the end of the day, our top package for an exhibitor is $2,500. And it's so much more robust, I mean, than Pepcom's 10K package. I mean, we want this to be accessible to big, small, what have you. And I actually wrote down, I made a note, Buzz TV. I've got RII because I'm not familiar with those guys either. And I'm generally, I mean, my database of companies is pretty huge. So yeah, I mean, we would love to talk if they have hardware. I mean, they don't have, if they're consumer facing, we don't turn too many we won't turn a company away because they're not hardware. I mean, a lot of folks will come to us and say, hey, I have an app. It's for consumers. I love your audience, but, I don't have a gadget to show them. And, what I tell them is, hey, it's about the audience. I mean, you don't have to, especially in the live environment, context. I mean, yeah, it helps if you have a piece of hardware you can hand over the table and say, hey, check this out. Look at the knobs. This is where this knob is, and this is where this knob is. But
yeah, they got the product. They got
it's
the
really about the audience, right? I mean, even if you don't have a piece of hardware, if you're trying to reach geeks and enthusiasts and influencers in media, then we can help you do that.
absolutely cool. Okay, yeah. So well, you and me talk back and forth on email. So
Yep.
we both know how to get in hold of each other. um, so this is the part of the show that we always ask our guest if there's anything that you want to say, anything of if you want the audience to know where to find you or anything that you want to shout out. This is your time to really say whatever you would like.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. We're still small, so we could definitely, if you look for Techfluence, not Tech Influence, or Techthusiast, not Tech Enthusiast, on all the social channels, we're there. And you know, ultimately, what we didn't kind of, what kind of ties this all together is our mission is to help B2C tech brands engage all of the audiences they need to have relationships with in order to be successful today. And it's not just press, it's influencer, it's enthusiast. Um, so whether it's the tech enthusiast blog that is kind of helping them skip the middleman so their content is getting direct to consumers, whether it's inviting influencers to Techfluence. And, when we had a live event, you didn't even have to be an influencer. We would carve out a couple hours at the end, and all you had to do was be a geek. And we were the only ones letting, just forgive me, but geeks off the street come in through the door. But, please go follow Techfluence and Techthusiast on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Um, that would be super helpful for us.
I really wanted to say thank you on behalf of Rojas, myself, Beyond the Streams, for taking the time. It's been a fantastic conversation. One thing I really wanted to leave you with is that I haven't really given myself or be given the opportunity to really network with companies or brands. And I've kind of stayed in my own lane within my own little community. And this was the first event that got me interacting with a lot of companies and a lot of brands. And as an experience, it was phenomenal. Um, I
Thank
think
you.
it speaks volumes about the people putting on the event when it runs so smoothly and so respectfully. Everybody was, like I said earlier, they took their turns. Everybody made sure to answer as many questions as they could. There was a lot of communications afterwards, and I really felt that Techfluence as a whole really respected the creator on my end. There was the follow-up emails, making sure that everybody was taken care of, but there was the follow-up afterwards. How did we do? You guys sent off surveys. You wanted to make sure that it went as smooth as possible. And if you guys had positive criticism, what were they? But not only that, you guys provided all of the notes
Mhm.
from all of the vendors. That's not something that you typically get from going to an event from CES. At least I don't think you do. And that was something that was really beneficial for me because after talking with so many people, it was really, I felt like you guys did a great job taking care of us, the creators, the influencers, whatever you want to say. So I wanted to say a big thank you on my behalf for all of that. And I really do hope that we have a lot of great conversations like this going forward in the future. So yeah, thank you again.
You're very welcome. Thank you both for attending, but for inviting me here as well. I really enjoyed this tremendously. Great conversation. Um, Next level. I mean, when I first started doing events, and then especially when I pivoted from Digital Life, the big convention hall, to the smaller events, um, you know, it didn't I started to look at what was out there and I started to say, damn, I mean, there's so many different little ways to provide value to our attendees and our exhibitors that just these other ones aren't doing. They're kind of on autopilot almost. So, if you really pay attention to the details, and I'm so glad you kind of noticed that, that's awesome. Then yeah, there's a lot of different ways to improve the experience, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, and yeah, on behalf of Beyond the Streams, Next Level, and myself, we want to thank you for coming. If anybody out there that's listening or watching us on YouTube, wherever you're at, whatever platform you're on, check the description below. We're gonna have links on how to find Techfluence, and that way you guys can get plugged in to exactly what's going on. There's a lot of cool stuff. The first one that I attended for Techfluence was amazing. So I'm pretty sure the experience is going to be better than what it was before. So I'm very excited to.
Yeah, because it was not without a glitch here and there, right? I mean, it was our first one, and we've already fixed some of those, and we're constantly brainstorming. You know, why does the audio in that booth keep going when I open the second booth, and little things like that. So we're working on all that.
It was great. I
Yeah.
actually, I really did like it, and so I'm excited. I'm excited for the next one. Like when you changed the date, I was like, hey, what happened? I was
I
like, where's
know.
it going? And you're like, it's coming soon. Don't worry.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, so everybody out there, make sure you guys do check the description below. We're gonna have all the information out there. And one of the last things we say here as we close out here is you guys take care and you take care of each other.
And stay
Stay
humble and
safe,
patient.
man.
And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.